Welcome back, dear viewers. We are back with another amazing story. Have you ever wondered if a single act of kindness could change your fate forever? Imagine a vast, untamed jungle where every rustle of the leaves tells a story. Here, a mighty lion roams, commanding respect with his strength and grandeur, while a tiny mouse scurries quietly, almost unnoticed among the towering trees. Their lives, so different yet intertwined by destiny, remind us that even the smallest gestures can make the biggest impact. Today, we embark on a journey where an unexpected encounter between these two unlikely friends teaches us that kindness and gratitude truly go a long way. One bright afternoon, deep within the heart of a vast jungle, the air was thick with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. Towering trees stretched high into the sky, their dense branches casting cool shadows on the forest floor. Beneath one of these grand trees, a mighty lion lay resting. His golden mane glistened in the warm sunlight, rising and falling with each deep breath. The jungle was his kingdom, and no creature dared to disturb him. Unbeknownst to the sleeping lion, a tiny mouse scurried nearby. Its soft paws barely made a sound as it darted between the fallen leaves, searching for food. The little creature was playful and carefree, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking just a few feet away. As it sniffed around, its tiny whiskers twitched with excitement, and without realizing it, the mouse found itself right next to the lion's enormous paw. Just then, snap! The mouse accidentally stepped onto the lion's thick fur. The soft pressure was enough to stir the great beast. The lion's ears twitched, his massive paw flexed slightly, and in an instant, his piercing eyes flickered open. A deep, rumbling growl vibrated through the air, sending a shiver down the mouse's tiny spine. Before the little creature could react, the lion's enormous paw came crashing down, trapping it beneath his sharp claws. The mouse gasped, its tiny heart racing as it stared up at the lion's terrifying face. His sharp teeth gleamed as he opened his mouth, ready to make the intruder his next snack. The jungle fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if waiting to see what would happen next. The mouse struggled but could not escape the lion's grip. It squirmed, its tiny body trembling with fear. This was the end. There was no way out. Would the mighty lion show mercy? Or was this tiny creature about to become a meal? The jungle air grew tense, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The little mouse, trapped beneath the lion's massive paw, could feel the weight of its own fate pressing down on it. The lion's golden eyes narrowed, examining the tiny creature struggling beneath him. His sharp claws curled slightly, gripping the mouse just enough to ensure there was no escape. The mouse trembled, its tiny whiskers twitching uncontrollably. It had never been this close to death before. The lion's warm breath washed over the mouse as he let out a deep, guttural chuckle. "You dared to run across my paw?" the lion growled, his voice low and thunderous. "Do you know who I am? I could crush you in an instant." The mouse gulped. Its mind raced. There was no point in struggling. The lion was far too strong. But maybe words could save its life. "Oh, great and powerful lion," the mouse squeaked, its voice barely louder than the rustling leaves. "Please spare me. It was an accident. I meant no harm, I swear." The lion let out a deep, rumbling laugh. His teeth gleamed as he slowly lowered his face, bringing his sharp fangs just inches from the trembling mouse. "Spare you?" he mocked. "You are nothing but a tiny, helpless creature. Why should I let you go?" The mouse took a shaky breath. It had to think fast. Then, with all the courage it could gather, it spoke. "If you let me go," the mouse said, its voice steady despite its fear, "I promise, one day I will help you." Silence. Then another deep chuckle rumbled through the lion's chest. His whiskers twitched with amusement. The idea was ridiculous. A creature as small as this mouse helping the mighty king of the jungle? Impossible. "You?" the lion scoffed, shaking his head. "How could a tiny thing like you ever help someone as strong as me?" The mouse, though still trembling, held its ground. "I may be small," it said, "but kindness always finds a way." The lion stared at the mouse, his golden eyes studying it with curiosity. He had expected the creature to beg, to plead, to cry in terror, but instead it spoke with confidence, even in the face of certain doom. The lion let out a long breath, lifting his paw ever so slightly. The mouse felt the pressure ease, but it dared not move yet. Was this a trick? Was the lion toying with it before delivering the final blow? Then, to the mouse's amazement, the lion slowly lifted his paw completely, setting it free. The tiny creature hesitated for just a moment before scrambling backward, its heart still pounding in its chest. "Go," the lion said, his voice firm but without anger. "You amuse me. Let's see if your promise means anything." The mouse blinked, hardly believing its luck. It scurried a few feet away, then turned back to look at the lion one last time. "Thank you," it whispered. Then, in a flash, it disappeared into the underbrush, leaving the great lion alone beneath the towering trees. As the jungle settled once more, the lion shook his head, a small smirk curling at the edge of his lips. "A mouse helping a lion," he muttered. "What a foolish thought." Little did he know that foolish thought would one day save his life. Days passed since the fateful encounter between the lion and the tiny mouse. The jungle had returned to its usual rhythm. The birds chirped, the leaves rustled in the breeze, and the mighty lion roamed his kingdom as he always had. Yet, deep inside his mind, he couldn't shake off the memory of that tiny, trembling creature that had dared to promise him help. The very idea was laughable. How could something so small ever make a difference? One warm afternoon, the lion was making his way through the dense jungle, his golden mane glowing under the rays of the sun. His powerful paws moved gracefully over the ground, his ears twitching at the sounds of the wilderness. But then, amidst the familiar symphony of the jungle, he heard something strange, something tiny. A sound so faint that most would have ignored it. A tiny squeak. The lion's ears perked up. His sharp eyes scanned the forest floor, searching for the source. Then, just a few steps ahead, he spotted something struggling among the tangled roots of an old tree. The little mouse. The same creature he had spared days ago was now trapped, its tiny foot caught in a twisted vine, its body wriggling desperately to break free. The mouse was frantic, tugging and pulling with all its might. Every attempt only tightened the grip of the vine, making escape impossible. Its tiny heart pounded in its chest. It knew it was defenseless. If a predator were to pass by now, it would be an easy meal. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over it. The mouse froze, feeling the presence of something massive. It slowly lifted its tiny head, and there, standing tall like an unmovable force, was the lion. The mouse's breath caught in its throat. Its mind screamed in panic. Had the lion changed his mind? Was he here to finish what he had started days ago? The lion lowered his head, his eyes locked onto the struggling mouse. His gaze was unreadable, his presence overwhelming. The mouse felt its tiny body trembling again. Please," it squeaked, barely able to speak. "Not like this." The lion watched for a moment, the great beast unmoving. Then slowly, he lifted one massive paw. The mouse squeezed its eyes shut, bracing for what it thought was its end. But instead of crushing it, the lion reached for the vine. With a single swift motion of his sharp claws, he slashed through the entangled trap. The vine snapped instantly. The mouse tumbled forward, suddenly free. For a moment, it lay still, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Then, carefully, it got back onto its tiny feet, staring up in disbelief at the towering lion who had just saved its life. The jungle was silent. The mouse swallowed hard, still unsure if this was real. You helped me?" The lion let out a small huff, his expression unreadable. "Consider us even," he rumbled, turning away as if it had been nothing. The mouse's tiny chest rose and fell rapidly. It had never expected such mercy, such kindness, especially from someone as mighty as the lion. As the great beast walked away, the mouse watched him go, its eyes filled with something new, respect, admiration, and something deeper, a silent promise. From that day on, the mouse knew that its debt to the lion was more than just words. One day, somehow, it would return the favor. The jungle was alive with its usual harmony, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of birds, and the gentle whispers of the wind weaving through the towering trees. The mighty lion strode confidently through his kingdom, his golden mane flowing with each powerful step. He was the ruler of this land, feared by all, untouchable, invincible. But fate had different plans for him that day. As he ventured deeper into the dense wilderness, something unusual caught his attention: the scent of humans. His keen senses picked up the faint yet unmistakable odor of intruders, hunters. His amber eyes darkened with suspicion as he moved cautiously, ears flicking at the slightest sound. Then, snap. Before the lion could react, the ground beneath him gave way. In a split second, a massive net shot up from beneath the forest floor, yanking him high into the air. Thick ropes tightened around his powerful body, restricting his movements. He let out a deafening roar that echoed through the jungle, sending flocks of birds scattering into the sky. He struggled violently, thrashing his claws and gnashing his sharp teeth. But the more he fought, the tighter the ropes squeezed around him. His mighty strength, which once made him the king of the jungle, was now useless against the hunter's cunning trap. Panic set in. The lion had never known fear, not like this. His body swung slightly as he dangled above the forest floor, his tail flicking in frustration. His breaths were heavy, labored. The realization sank in. He was trapped, helpless. The jungle, which had once been his domain, now felt like a prison. The trees that once bowed to his might now stood silently, offering no aid. The vines, the bushes, the creatures he once ruled over, they all watched from the shadows, too afraid to come near. He roared again, louder this time, his deep voice vibrating through the land. But there was no answer, no ally, no escape. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the forest. Time was running out. He knew that if he remained trapped, the hunters would return. And when they did, it would be the end. His strength was failing, his struggles weakened, his heart pounded in frustration. How could this happen to him, the king of the jungle? Then, through the silence of the approaching night, a faint rustling came from the underbrush. Small, barely noticeable. But to the lion, it was a sound of hope. Something was coming. But was it friend or foe? The jungle had grown eerily quiet as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the trees. The usual harmony of the wilderness, chirping birds, rustling leaves, distant roars, had faded into an unsettling stillness. Something was wrong. Something had shifted. Deep within the undergrowth, the little mouse scurried through the tangled roots and fallen leaves, its tiny paws moving swiftly over the forest floor. It had spent the day searching for food, nibbling on seeds and grains, unaware of the darkness creeping over the jungle. Then, suddenly, it stopped. Its small, round ears twitched. The air carried a sound, faint, distant, yet unmistakable. A sound so deep, so powerful that it sent a shiver down the tiny creature's spine. A roar. But not just any roar, the lion's roar. The mouse's heart skipped a beat. It had heard this roar before, the same mighty voice that had once spared its life. But this time something was different. There was no authority in it, no dominance, no pride. This roar was filled with something else: desperation, pain, fear. The mouse hesitated. Fear whispered in its mind, telling it to run in the opposite direction. If the lion, the king of the jungle, was in trouble, what chance did a tiny creature like itself have? But then, another thought pushed aside the fear, one of gratitude, of loyalty. The lion had once shown mercy when he had no reason to. He had spared the mouse when he could have easily crushed it. And now, Now he was the one in need. The mouse took a deep breath, its tiny chest rising and falling. It couldn't ignore this call for help. It had made a promise. With newfound determination, the mouse dashed forward, weaving through the jungle with speed it never knew it had. It followed the fading echoes of the lion's cries, its small body maneuvering effortlessly through narrow gaps and thick foliage where no larger creature could go. The night deepened, the jungle growing darker, but the mouse pressed on. It was no longer running for itself. It was running for the one who had once spared its life. Then, as it neared a clearing, it saw something that made it stop dead in its tracks. Hanging from a thick tree branch, tangled in an enormous net, was the lion. The once mighty beast, the ruler of the jungle, now reduced to a prisoner in his own land. His golden mane hung low, his massive paws struggling weakly against the unyielding ropes. His powerful body, which once inspired fear and respect, now dangled helplessly in the moonlight. The mouse's breath caught in its throat. The lion was trapped. And if the mouse didn't act fast, he wouldn't be trapped for long. Because something else was coming. The hunters. The jungle was still, the air thick with an unsettling silence. The mouse stood frozen, its tiny body hidden behind a thick root, its wide eyes fixed on the sight before it. There, hanging from the towering tree, was the lion, bound in a hunter's net, his powerful body struggling against the ropes that refused to give way. His golden mane drooped, his breaths were heavy, his strength fading. The mouse's heart pounded. This was the moment it had feared. The mighty lion, the ruler of the jungle, was completely helpless, and worse, time was running out. Then, snap. A sound in the distance. The mouse's ears perked up. Footsteps, faint but steady. The scent of humans drifted through the air. The hunters were coming. Panic surged through the mouse's tiny frame. If the hunters reached the clearing before the lion was free, it would be over. The lion would be captured, or worse. The mouse clenched its tiny paws. No, it couldn't let that happen. Summoning all its courage, the mouse dashed forward. It ran straight toward the tangled mess of ropes, its small claws gripping the thick net as it climbed. The lion, exhausted, barely noticed at first. His body hung limply, his breathing slow. But then, something tiny moved near his paws. The lion cracked open one weary eye. The mouse. For a moment, confusion flickered across his face. "You," he rumbled weakly. "What are you doing here?" The mouse didn't stop. It reached the thickest part of the net, where the ropes were knotted tightly together. Without hesitation, it sank its sharp little teeth into the fibers and began gnawing. Bite after bite, the ropes loosened. Bit by bit, the net weakened. The mouse's tiny jaw ached, but it didn't stop. The lion watched in disbelief. This tiny creature, the same one he had nearly crushed under his paw, was now his only hope. But time was slipping away. The footsteps grew louder. The hunters were close now, their voices faint but clear. They were laughing, confident in their victory. The mouse gnawed faster, its heart pounding. The ropes were thick, but they were breaking. The net sagged slightly. The lion's body shifted. The hunter's shadows stretched across the trees. The mouse bit down one last time. Snap. The final rope broke. The net collapsed. With a powerful roar, the lion lunged forward, his massive paws hitting the ground just as the last strands of rope unraveled around him. He was free. The hunters reached the clearing, their torches flickering in the darkness. But the lion was no longer trapped. He was waiting. A deep, thunderous growl rumbled through the jungle. The hunters' laughter died instantly, replaced by pure terror. The king of the jungle had returned, and he was not pleased. The jungle, once filled with the sounds of the hunters' laughter, was now gripped by an eerie silence. The moment the last rope snapped and the lion's massive paws hit the ground, everything changed. The once helpless prisoner was now a towering force of power and fury, his golden mane flowing as he straightened himself, his amber eyes burning with rage. The hunters froze. Their torches flickered, casting trembling shadows on the jungle floor. Their confident grins disappeared as the reality of their mistake sank in. The beast they had trapped was no longer at their mercy. He was free. A deep, guttural growl rumbled through the lion's chest, vibrating the very ground beneath them. His claws dug into the earth, his muscles tensed like a coiled spring. Then, roar! The jungle exploded with the sound of the lion's mighty voice. Birds scattered from the treetops. Even the wind seemed to retreat. It wasn't just a roar, it was a warning. The hunters stumbled back, their faces pale with fear. Their weapons, once held with confidence, now trembled in their hands. They had expected a captured beast, a trophy to take home. But now, they stood before the true king of the jungle, one who would not be tamed. Then, in a single powerful leap, the lion lunged forward. His massive paws struck the ground with thunderous force, sending the hunters into chaos. They turned, stumbling over one another in their desperate attempt to flee. Their torches dropped, their traps forgotten. One by one, they disappeared into the darkness, their panicked shouts fading into the night. The jungle swallowed them whole, leaving only the rustling of leaves and the steady breathing of the freed lion. The danger was gone. For a moment, the lion stood still, his chest rising and falling with each heavy breath. The weight of the night's events pressed on him, how close he had come to losing everything. But then his sharp eyes flickered downward. The mouse. The tiny creature stood just a few feet away, its small body still trembling, its whiskers twitching with exhaustion. It had done the impossible. It had saved the lion, just as it had promised. The lion lowered his head, his massive face now level with the tiny mouse. They locked eyes. One, a beast of unmatched power. The other, a creature of unshakable determination. For the first time in his life, the lion bowed, not in defeat, but in gratitude. The mouse took a hesitant step forward. The great beast, who once held its life in his paw, was now looking at it not as prey, not as something insignificant, but as an equal. A deep rumble echoed from the lion's throat, not a growl, but something softer, a gesture of respect. The mouse, in return, placed its tiny paw gently on the lion's massive one. A silent promise passed between them, one of trust, of loyalty, of friendship. The jungle had witnessed many things that night. A king brought to his knees, a creature no larger than a leaf, proving that strength is not measured by size, but by courage. The mighty lion and the tiny mouse, two beings from opposite worlds, now bound by something unbreakable. From that night on, the jungle would never see them the same way again. The mouse was no longer just a tiny creature scurrying beneath the feet of giants. It was the lion's friend, his savior. And the lion? He was no longer just the ruler of the jungle. He was something more, a protector, a companion, a friend. And so, side by side, the great beast and the tiny hero disappeared into the darkness of the jungle, their bond unshaken, their story whispered through the trees for generations to come. The jungle had returned to its peaceful rhythm. The trees swayed gently, the birds chirped once more, and the whispers of the night carried the echoes of an incredible tale, one that would be remembered for generations. Standing atop a rocky ledge, the mighty lion gazed over his vast kingdom, his golden mane catching the soft morning light. But he was not alone. Beside him, a tiny figure sat proudly, a creature so small, yet so significant. The mouse. Their journey had been an unexpected one. The lion, once believing that strength was measured in size and power, had learned a lesson that changed his heart forever. And the mouse, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had proven that true courage knows no limits. The moral of the story: true friendships can come from the most unexpected places. The lion and the mouse were from two different worlds, yet they became the closest of allies. Friendship is not about status, size, or power. It's about trust, loyalty, and the willingness to stand by each other in times of need. As the lion and the mouse sat together, overlooking the jungle, they knew that their story was more than just an unlikely friendship. It was a lesson to all. The jungle whispered their tale, passing it from tree to tree, river to river, until every creature, big and small, knew the truth. No one is too great to need help. No one is too small to give it. And with that, the lion let out a deep, contented sigh. The mouse twitched its whiskers happily. Side by side, they disappeared into the heart of the jungle, their story forever etched into the soul of the wild. A timeless lesson in kindness, courage, and the unbreakable power of friendship. And that, dear viewers, is the incredible story of the lion and the mouse. A tale of kindness, courage, and unexpected friendships. We hope this story inspired you and reminded you that even the smallest acts of kindness can make a huge difference. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories like this. Your support helps us bring more inspiring content to you. Also, let us know in the comments, what did you learn from this story? Have you ever experienced a moment where kindness came back to help you in an unexpected way? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching till the end, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay kind, stay brave, and remember, no one is too small to make a difference.